Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Journey to Bloom, Roots and Branches. I'm your host, Christine MOLA. And today's episode is not just an introduction. It is a lived truth. This episode 1, a deeply personal and intentional one, is called The Self-Imposed Pause When Darkness Honors the Light. And yes, I am intentionally re-recording this episode, not because the original message was wrong, but because I am no longer the same woman who first told this story. Over the past year, from, say, autumn 2024 until late 2025, I entered what I now call a sacred pause. A self-imposed season of stillness, healing, shadow integration, and spiritual recalibration. A lot. And from the outside, it may have looked like silence. It did look like silence to many. It looked like slowing down, like stepping away, and in many ways, I did. But internally, it was one of the most profound periods of my transformation of my life. I was not lost. I was rooting. Because sometimes darkness is not punishment. Sometimes darkness is protection. And sometimes darkness is the sacred space where your light is being restructured. You know, my pause was not accidental. It was totally intentional, even when it felt uncomfortable, and it was uncomfortable. After years of building, leading, giving, and holding space for others, life gently, sometimes not so gently, asked me to hold space for myself. I stepped away from the noise, from overextension, from identities that no longer aligned with who I was becoming. And in that stillness, everything surfaced: grief, healing, truth, and ultimately clarity. So during that pause, I met every former version of myself. The little girl who became resilient far too early. The overgiver, the survivor, the woman who carried too much for too long. And instead of rejecting her, fearing her, or minimizing her, I chose to integrate her. Because true shadow work is not easy, and it's not about fixing who you are. It is about honoring who you had to be in order to survive. And that is when I began to understand a deeper truth. Darkness was not opposing my light. It was refining it. So then something began to shift. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily and truthfully. Opportunities appeared, conversations began to align, and my voice returned, not louder, but clearer, more grounded, more sovereign. I realized I was no longer rebuilding from exhaustion. I was rebuilding from alignment. The pause had not delayed my path. It had redirected it with intention. So this is why this show is called Roots and Branches. Because before we bloom publicly, we must root privately. The roots are the healing, the stillness, the unseen inner work. And the branches are what the world eventually sees: our leadership, our creativity, our voice, and our impact. So my sacred pause strengthened my roots so that now my branches can grow from truth, not survival. And my dear friend, if you are in a pause right now, or even hearing the quiet whisper to slow down, I want you to hear this clearly. Stillness is not failure. Silence is not regression, and darkness is not the end of your story. Sometimes the most powerful transformation happens when the world believes nothing is happening at all. So, my self-imposed pause did not break me. It rebuilt me. I have stronger roots, clearer boundaries, and a deeper devotion to purpose. I am not returning as who I once was. I'm emerging as who I always was becoming. This is my story. This is my root. And from here, the branches begin. So welcome to Roots and Branches, Season 1, built by spirit, guided by purpose. And until we meet again in every episode, stay rooted, stay rising, and always stay blooming.